Right. So I'd just really like to say to everybody on the call, Shavur Tov, I want to extend a really huge welcome to each and every person on this call for attending. It's really, really great to have you here. I know it's a tricky time for some people, perhaps with children at this kind of time, but it's fabulous to see so many people on this call. And it also is being recorded to acknowledge for those people that can't make it. So they'll be able to hear this talk in their own time. It's also amazing to have Joey Kolirin here to speak to the community this evening with regards to mental health as part of our Mental Health Shabbat Awareness Weekend. I just wanted to really kind of call out, that as far as the community is concerned, that we really do take the issue of mental health extremely seriously within Borehamwood Elstree Synagogue, and we're also constantly learning about it and looking for new ways to create further awareness and to deepen our understanding about how we can best support people. So I just really wanted to say that please do either contact the shul with any thoughts that you might have on this, or myself about what else we can be doing post this talk, and I'll put my email address in the chat as well, because it really would be great to hear from you and to get your thoughts. But Joey, you've so kindly given up your time this evening, and it's really truly been a pleasure getting to know you as we've been arranging this talk, and I just want to thank you personally for doing so. So this talk is going to be for about 30 minutes, and then there's going to be 15 minutes Q&A, and people are welcome to put or write questions in the chat, and then I can raise them on your behalf at the end, or you can come off mute at the end of Joey's talk and ask that question yourself. Either way is absolutely fine. So Joey, without further ado, over to you, my friend.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. It is an awkward time, so anyone on here, I genuinely really appreciate it. But I just thought I'd start off with a couple of sort of pointers for the call. For as much as I'm here giving my story or my insight, this is nothing to do with me personally. We're trying to tackle a wider issue that affects everyone in the world. I also have absolutely no ego with reference to this. If you want to leave, if it's not for you, that's absolutely no problem at all. And some of you, everyone's at different stages with their life generally, but their connection to this. So if it becomes uncomfortable for any reason, I would advise you to seek some, some support after. My name is my name. You can find me on social media, or I've got lots of friends on here who are supporting me. So thank you very much, and family and people that know me. But yeah, it may not be uncomfortable, but if it is, I just want you to know you're not alone. And the whole reason that we're doing this, and the whole reason that there are such amazing organizations, and one of which is Jami, Jewish mental health charity, is to provide support, education. I've recently become an ambassador for Jami as well, so I'm looking to connect with the community and try and bring some of these issues to the surface, really. So yeah, I hope it's okay to share some of these things with you. Now, just so you know, as best as possible, I'm going to talk without emotion. So it doesn't mean I'm not or haven't experienced this stuff, but I have to get into a certain zone to do these talks because it's extremely uncomfortable for me. So look, I do have a monotone voice, and lots of people like to have a joke with me about that anyway. So to be honest, my excitement levels only really go from here to here anyway. But yeah, so I wanted to get across a couple of messages, and again, this may or may not work for certain people, but I wanted to sort of talk about my experience, how I handle this on a day-to-day basis, because I think the synopsis says, was once suicidal, now a father of two. Just because I'm a father of two doesn't mean I'm not suicidal. A lot of people who don't necessarily understand mental health, they look at the things I've got. Now, whatever that may be, I don't have anything special in my opinion, but it could be a job, it could be a wife, it could be children, friends, family. I'm sat in a gym, which is at the bottom of my house. I don't say that to brag, actually. It's actually a key thing which is pivotal to dealing with my mental health. So again, a lot of people might come and say, oh, wow, look at you, you must be doing well, you have a gym. Actually, it's a lifeline for me. So and I will get into that, but it's not necessarily, something which is special. Just because I'm a father of 2 kids doesn't mean that I don't go to bed at night in floods of tears, and finding it very difficult to tackle life. But again, there's a very different external perception of people, of the world, and again, this is my my own views. Feel free to take it or leave it, but I hope it does help you. So I'll just give us a super brief background, and there's a lot to it. I'm 37 in a couple of weeks, and I had, my family are on the call, so I'm not going to censor it for them. But I had a difficult childhood. That's not to say I had a bad childhood. I had a difficult childhood. I come from a very dysfunctional place, and everyone responds to life differently. But whether it's in my blood or whether it was nurtured, things didn't go so well for me when I started sort of finishing school and heading to uni. And really, uni was the first time in my life where I was on my own. I didn't have my support network there. As most of you or whoever's been to uni probably would have experienced, there's a big drinking culture. I'm personally not into and have never been into substances, drugs or anything like that. But where I went, there was a very big drug culture, and it's very boisterous, and it's about going out and having fun and finding people from romantic relationships and physical relationships and all of that sort of stuff. And then there's me. Not to say I don't have an interest in those things, but that was a real struggle for me. I wasn't in a good place, and I had 7 hours of education a week, which left me, I'm not the best at maths, but however many other hours to fester in, well, actually, what's just happened? My childhood's gone, and it's part of my language, but what the was that? And yeah, it was, I started to go downhill. It didn't help matters. My father was a very difficult man. He passed away a few months after I finished university, and quite interesting actually, when I have a relapse or get into a certain state, or a friend messages me, hi Joey, how are you? I say I'm not good. I'd say more often than not, unless I say I miss my father or it's something to do with my father, people don't understand. Well, what do you mean you're not good? Oh, I'm sure it'll be all right. You'll be okay tomorrow. But if I say I miss my father, there's an instant connect. People are like, well, his father passed away. That's reasonable. We understand why he's down, because he's lost someone. Now, my depression, in my opinion, my circumstances haven't helped. But there's a very good book called Man's Search for Meaning, and it's about people who were in the Holocaust who still managed to find some solace. Obviously, the Holocaust, very sensitive subject. It really, as we all know, was hell on earth. And if it was purely down to circumstances, I'm sure you'd agree that there's no way on earth that those people would be able to find any sort of happiness. Similarly, and this is a story I was telling Jonny the other day, and this is the honest truth. So exercise is a very big part of my life. A lot of the reason of that is that, there's a big connection between physical and mental health. It hasn't always been a good part. I can get quite obsessive with it. But after uni, I ended up in the Priory Hospital in North London. I was there for a number of months, and I was in a very, very bad way. I was at the end of my life. I really was sort of staring it down the barrel. I went there and I got admitted, and we were doing group therapy. Now, when I first went there, I thought to myself, what am I doing here? I'm with a bunch of nutcases. This is a nut house, to coin a phrase. And I don't use that phrase now, but this is my thought process at the time. Nothing, this is mad. What am I doing here? Who are these? But, how do I know? Are they serial killers? I'm stuck in this place. And eventually, I always sort of said to myself when I was there, I said, well, I'm sorry to break it to you, mate, but you're here as well. I literally had an internal voice, and I was like, it doesn't mean you're crazy, doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you, but you've got yourself into a position where life has become unmanageable. And the key thing, I will get back to the exercise and to my story, but the key thing is that unmanageability. And there's a difference, you know, quite often you'll speak to people, again, it's this throwaway statement, oh, hi mate, how are you? Yeah, weather's been a bit bad, you know, it's just so depressing. There's a very distinct difference between sadness and depression. So for me, my interpretation of depression, and again, you may know someone, this may ring true to you, it may not, but my interpretation is a distinct lack of motivation to do anything. Yeah, and it's time and time again, day after day. So it's not watching a film, crying, feeling sad from that film, and then maybe wanting to go to bed because it's touched on something. It is a consistent feeling of, you know, just a lack of hope, and just not, you know, even good things are said on paper. I've got a lovely family, I have a house, a job, whatever else I've done, or people, you know, see as being good. But you know, depression is like this dark clouds that, however good things may be, you know, sometimes it could be for absolutely no reason. You just don't have any hope. So, but yeah, back to my story about the priory and exercise. So, you know, I, particularly when I'm down, I can do a lot of analysis and comparison. You know, my sister came up with a great phrase, analysis paralysis, or compare and despair. What I mean by that is looking at everyone else. Well, look at them, they're great. Why don't I have why don't I earn as much money as them? Why isn't my body in as good peak condition as that one? Why is that person always happy? Oh, they're married. You know, I'm 36, I'm not married. Look, everyone, all the good people are gone. That's one I hear all the time. All the good guys are gone. Yeah, whatever it may be. Yeah, so whatever floats, that guy's more of a, or lady, sorry, is more philanthropic than me. Yeah, it's comparing. And I guarantee that there'll be someone out there that compares themselves with me and thinks, you know, it's not me saying it, but thinks, I don't know, Joey's got this, that, and the other, whatever that may be. But the point is, so I was in the Priory, and for those of you that may sadly be familiar with it, it's a bit like a stately home. So if you've ever been to a wedding at the Grove or the Luton Hoo Hotel, something like that, you know, there's a driveway that you go into, you know, 5 or 10 mile an hour speed limit, speed bumps, and it's that sort of feel. Anyway, a car pulls up, I'm on my break between therapy, and it's a Ferrari, and it is speeding at least 30 to 40 miles an hour down these speed bumps, no joke. And you know, it's quite an entrance in that sort of place. And the car pulls up and it does, you know, emergency stop, and you're like, my God, who on earth is this? You know, I mean, I'm not into cars, but Ferraris are obviously expensive, don't know how much they're worth. And a guy gets out of there, and you've got, you know, me, I'm sat in the Priory. I've been literally at the end of my life, which I will get onto, and I'm starting to feel uncomfortable here, because I'm already uncomfortable. You know, in my mind, my friends are not in the Priory. They're making something of their career. They're going out, they're having fun, and all the other things that my mind's told me, that everyone else is better than me, everyone else is greater, and everyone else is developing. Yet Joey's stuck in the Priory. You know, shameful. Got nothing going for me, whatever those messages were that I told myself. And then Mr. Ferrari pulls up, and I'm thinking, great, could this get any worse? You know, even in my place of comfort and people around me, here comes Mr. Ferrari. Anyway, gets out his car. He is absolutely ripped, you know, looks like Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. I mean, he's got muscles pouring out of his cheeks, and I'm like, oh, I can't, who is there? It must be a doctor or something. So anyway, I didn't see it. He goes inside, and we get to group therapy, and this guy comes to sit next to me, and I'm thinking, brilliant. He sat next to me. I look like I'm not in my best way, and I have to sit next to this successful guy, you know, who looks the part. First thing he says in the meeting is, I hate myself and I want to die. It's the first thing that came out of his mouth. No joke. I remember what he looked like. And everyone's taken back, thinking, what? You're the man. You know, you're Mr. Alpha Male, Ferrari. And, you know, that speaks volumes to me. Think things really aren't what they seem. And I myself have been on a process in the last year, and in some cases I've taken stick for it. You know, the old social media thing. Someone said to me, I've just been away on holiday, and someone said to me, it's funny, I watch social media and I've come to realize the more people post, the more unhappy they are. And I'm scratching my head thinking, well, I've posted near on every day. The thing is, in my posts. So I put a lot of posts about the gym, for example, where people say, Joey, you're seeking validation. Well, of course I'm seeking validation. I've got low confidence. Yeah, absolutely. I am seeking validation. Is that right or wrong? Don't know. That's for you to decide. But the interesting thing on my posts is I might put a picture of myself doing exercise or training, but I've also put a hashtag battling depression, or hashtag training through depression, or hashtag, doing this to stay alive. And it's very interesting. The comments I get are looking good, Joe, or whatever people say, you must be keeping fit. There's no mention of the depression side. Now, half of it I do as a social experiment. I just find it fascinating. It is still a taboo. People don't know what to say. And I absolutely guarantee that there'll be someone on this call that relates to what I'm saying, or parts of it, or there'll be someone that that's suffering in this way. And just because I post online, or just because, you might see me somewhere with a smile on my face, that's not reality. And I'm not saying I'm not happy at the moment. I do have times of happiness. I'm not saying, this Joey's fake. And right now I'm talking to you. I hope I'm coming across as fairly sort of lucid and clear. But I could literally go inside and bawl my eyes out. And that's no exaggeration. Again, I've just been on holiday, and my family, they're checking in with me a lot. My wife's, are you okay? You seem better today. She goes to make a coffee, and 1 minute later, I'm sat in a room listening to music, bawling my eyes out. And she's, I thought you're okay. It's an illness, and it's something that it's very difficult to live with, and there could be no reason. And I highly recommend having a look online about, what to say to someone that's battling depression. And one thing I read recently was not to use the phrase "at least." Well, at least you've got your kids. Yeah, at least you've got a job. At least because remember, it's not relevant what I or anyone else has. It's all about your mindset and your mental state. You don't have your mind, you don't have anything. It's very, very difficult to see the light and to see the happiness. And I wanted to touch on my social anxieties. So I was once dating someone, and we went to West Ham, so we went to a pub, and some guy that she knew bumped into her there. And anyway, she calls me after and she said, "Oh, do you remember meeting such and such at the pub?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Yeah, he thought you were a prick." I was like, "Okay, what did I do?" She said, "No, you didn't do anything. He just thought the way you were dressed, you came across as, you're the alpha male, and just basically just that you love yourself." And I just was like, honestly, for those that know me truly and don't see me on social media or whatever, I mean, you could not be further from the truth. I don't know how to love myself. I see what I want to see when I look in the mirror. I interpret things, I find it very difficult to take a compliment. I don't see achievements as achievements. I don't see success as success in me, may I add. I think the world of a lot of other people. But I just found it really funny, that they said that. And listen, maybe I said something that came across in a certain way. I don't take any offense to it, or that's their opinion. But the message I'm trying to get across is things aren't what they seem. And I don't know if anyone's seen the Roman Kemp documentary that came out, I think it was last year. Mental health is very, very prevalent in males. And, males, what are you told as a kid? Don't cry, don't be a girl. Sexist comments, comments that dehumanize, don't cry. I mean, crying's a part of human life. If you lose someone that's close to you, what, you don't cry? Crying's a very normal emotion. It's very normal to watch a film and cry. That's okay. But males are often indoctrinated with society. You've got to be a man. Be a man. How many times do you hear that? Be a man. Well, what is being a man? Being a human, is crying. I'm not saying be depressed, but you've got to have emotions to things. We can't be completely desensitized that we don't cry. And it's fascinating. So again, in my company, I have a thing on the bottom of my email that says director. I've been to, as part of a networking group for a few years, and I happen to be the president of that group. All these words, powerful, director, whatever that means, but that applied a lot of pressure on me. And it still does. You know, I need to rock up to my company and I need to be Mr. Smile, driving the company moving forward. And my company are always shocked. The people that, you know, we got new starters and I tell them I suffer from depression. And they're like, what? But you seem so X, Y, and Z. I'm like, things aren't always what they seem. I cried myself to sleep last night. No joke, I say to them. I know that seems strange and it seems out there. And it's like, yeah, people don't talk about that as society. I put my head on my pillow and I cried myself to sleep because I am depressed. And I just wanted to touch on something, sorry, I started before and I didn't bring up about coming out. I'll talk about that. But I've got a lot of social anxiety. As I said, for me to be here on this call now is difficult. I think, what do I wear? I don't want to look too shit. But what if let me bring up my monotone voice before one of my friends takes the piss out of it or someone else says, about your voice. It's like, okay, what if I get too hot and I start sweating? People can think, oh God, he's not, there's all these social anxieties. And for me to just turn up somewhere sometimes, and when I say turn up, that could be getting out of bed and having a shower. It could be very, very basic things. But just to get to the front door can be a serious uphill battle for me. And there will be other people out there as well. So be mindful of your expectations of other people. And, you might be very well attuned to mental health. You may not. Again, we're all different. But I had about 7 years ago, all of my friends, or a lot of them, sorry, got married in sort of a 12-month period. And I'm talking my best closest friends. I would say at least 5 of them, I didn't go to their engagement party and showed no happiness on the surface, happiness for them. Now, am I a bad friend? Well, you could argue that to some extent. That's a fair argument. But the place I was in, I was thinking about death and not being here. I looked at myself in the mirror and couldn't bear to spend one more moment with myself. And I still get that today, well, not as regularly, but it does happen. So for me at that time, to rock up to a party and celebrate someone's happiness and be around people and look good and feel good, it was too much. As it happens, I have done a trek when I was 18 to Everest Base Camp on Mount Everest, and that was really bloody hard. And honestly, sometimes turning up to those events was like summiting Everest, and then people talk, oh, that guy's a miserable bastard. Well, he's got nothing to say. Oh, have you ever spoken to Jay? He's always in the court, doesn't really say much, does he? Now, I'm not looking for sympathy, genuinely, because I know what I need to do to manage my health, and exercise, as I said, is a key part of that, as well as other things. But I just wanted you, the Roman Kemp documentary, what I'm saying now, the Roman Kemp documentary, Roman's I think Capital FM radio presenter. Mental health is very, very rife in males, but males often suppress it or are conditioned to suppress it. And Roman Kemp's best friend, who was his co-host, one day didn't come to work, and Roman found out that he'd killed himself. And this was his best friend, one of his closest people in the world, and Roman had absolutely no clue that he even suffered from depression, no clue whatsoever. And it's a program, I highly recommend watching it. Really, really powerful program. The point, as I said, I'm going on about is there will be people out there, even people that you really, really don't think, Mr. Ferrari, someone might have road rage and drive past you and you think, oh, it's all right for them. Or, people don't understand. That was another one for me. Don't worry, guys, I'm different. Yeah, there's 6 billion people in the world, but Joey Kolirin's different. I'm the only one that I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to have kids, and I'm never going to live. No, you don't get it. It's me, right? I'm different. Sorry, but that's everyone goes through stuff. Every single person goes through stuff, and it's how we deal with it, and it's the support mechanism. So thank you for putting the link on there. I think Laura Bahar, I think it's on this call, put a link to Jami's services, but there are people out there that understand, and surprisingly, there'll be more people that you never thought would understand that do. And again, I don't mean this disrespectfully, I've got an amazing support network, but there will also be people that you really think are going to be there for you and they're not. Again, that's not to say it to be disheartening or make you feel disheartened, but the biggest step is admitting something's wrong. Yeah, and it doesn't mean something bad. So again, I'm not a fan of the phrase committing suicide, because committing is normally referred to, murder or something like that. I mean, it's not a crime. So I will tend not to use that phrase, and rocking up and saying something's wrong. There's not, that's not bad. It doesn't mean you're a failure. And I've been going on the thing I said I touched on before. This used to be shielded from people. So when I didn't turn up to my friends' engagement parties or weddings, or I wasn't happy, there was always excuses. I got known as Joey, the person that always lets people down, because you'd make an arrangement with me and I just wouldn't turn up. And there'd always be an excuse. But actually, I, as I said, that was climbing Mount Everest for me. And I probably shouldn't have agreed to go in the first place, and I should have been open. But in the last year, I've been going through a period, back to the social media, of what I call coming out, nothing to do with sexuality, which it's typically referred to. But yeah, I post it online as clear as day. I'm doing this. There's people on this talk who I might know in a professional capacity, may never have known. There might be friends on here. There might be family. Who knows? Or you may leave this call and think whatever you think, but the process of coming out is very, very important. Or you end up with people like Roman Kemp's best friend, who's no longer here, because obviously they felt they had nowhere to go. And I'm not saying I'm on the other side, as I said, it's not, this is with me for life. Yeah, and you have to feed the good sides of it. And the thing I find so hard about depression is, feed the good side. So for me, doing exercise keeps me sane. And again, some of my friends will know, I'll send them a picture of myself. They'll be like, why are you sending me a picture? Do you just love yourself? So thanks, but why do you keep sending me pictures? But I've got some endorphins released, and I'm like, I want to condition that. I'll put it on social media because I want people to hold me accountable as the person that trains, to put more pressure on me to train, to relieve my mental health difficulties. That's why I do it. Yeah. I've lost my train of thought, but yeah, it's coming out and admitting that you need help. It doesn't make you bad, and there will be plenty of people out there that you have no idea what they're going through. Absolutely no idea. I can tell you that I've still got my suicide note, and I was deadly serious. And a lot of people sort of said to me, and still continue to do so, suicide selfish. Yeah, because look at all the people you'll leave. Look at your family. Do you want your kids to grow up without a father? Now, listen, I appreciate this is a very, very sensitive subject, and there may be people, connected to it here, and I'm really not passing any judgment on that. I'm only talking about myself. But for me, I actually found it selfish that people were encouraging me to stick around, because I really didn't want to be here. I had to wake up every day, and still do, and I open my eyes and I'd be like, you again? And I've got all these thoughts in my head of disturbing thoughts, pain, trouble. Some people, my wife luckily doesn't suffer from this sort of thing. She'll take a scenario and just be happy with it. Look, oh, it's our daughter's birthday, how lovely. I mean, I love my daughter to bits, and it was her birthday last week, and it is lovely, but it doesn't mean that I don't have all this turmoil and other stuff going on in my head. My wife can take those things at face value, because thank God she doesn't suffer from what I suffer from. But really want you to consider that the at least, talking about circumstances, at least you've got this, at least you've got that. Try and know your audience. Again, I really hope this doesn't come across as sort of patronizing or teaching you to suck eggs. I'm just telling you my own experience. When people say, well, look what you've got, it doesn't matter. You could give me £10 million, 50 children, whatever makes people happy, the best physique in the world, blah, 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 blah. I've still got my mind. My mind's still got that message coming through. It's not relevant what I have. And again, society, man up. Why should we? I'm not saying that it's good to be depressed. I'm not saying, listen, go and act out all your depressive behaviors that make you worse. But it's about society, and particularly different generations to mine. It wasn't, this mental health awareness Shabbat. I mean, incredible. You know, you've got multiple synagogues across the country bringing this to the fray. You don't need to sit here on a Saturday night and listen to me talking about my depressed life. You know, I'm sure you've got a million better things to do. But the fact that you are here, A, makes me very grateful, but B, shows me that even if you're a friend of mine that I've dragged on this call, yeah, it shows me that you have some level of interest in mental health, whereas, you know, many years ago that wouldn't have been the case. So I think we're at 6:30. I'm going to take a couple more minutes if that's okay. I'm open to any question. I'm a very, very open individual. You can ask me anything. I'd like to think I'd tell you the truth. But yeah, I just to sort of wrap up, that you know, that's my journey. I haven't gone into depth because of time, but I wrote the note. I went to end my life, and it was at Mill Hill Broadway station. And actually, the thing that stopped me was the fear of actually doing that. You know, I was like, my God, that looks painful. But that didn't change the thought process. You know, I didn't go back and think, do you know what, I'm not depressed now. I went there, I did that, I got it out of my system. Yeah, I got that attempt out my system. I'm done. No, not the case. Yeah, and it's still, you know, I've not been great recently, and you know, whatever you want to call it, it relapses. It can, you know, I call it me, whatever you want to refer to it as. But I did want to leave on one message of hope, that I am significantly better than I was in my early 20s. For those that know me will know I literally used to lie in bed all the time. I would send very disturbing text messages. I wouldn't answer my phone. My social anxiety was, I mean, off the scale. At uni, I would sit in my room and just cry. You know, people say, don't you want to go out? You know, I was an immovable object. I never in a million years thought someone would look at me twice to have a relationship. Like, why would they do? You know, I was like, no. Children, you know, I still have fears about being a parent. There's no rule book for it. I don't want my kids to be on my journey. You know, so it's really fearful. I'm really, really fearful. You know, do I want my kids to see my depression? Well, not really. I want my kids to be happy, but it is a part of life, and it's a part of me. And suicide runs in my family. You know, I was exposed to it. But the message of hope is that there genuinely is help. And what I started saying before, I got sidetracked because I often interrupt myself. But the hardest thing with depression is these things that you need to do. So whether it's, as I said, for me, the exercise or whatever it is, you're asking someone to do that when they're depressed. You know, that's like asking someone who's in a wheelchair to say, listen, running a marathon's really good for you. Well, that's great, but I'm in a wheelchair. Yeah, and I've had 6 or 7 shoulder operations. Again, those of you that know me would definitely have spent time seeing me in a sling with a box under my arm. I cannot tell you the amount of people that ask, how's your shoulder? It's so regularly, but the amount of people that ask, well, how's your depression? It's minimal. Obviously, my close friends, my family say, there's 2 how are yous. I see my, hi, how you doing? Yeah, good. How you doing? Yeah, those are the people that are asking. But it's funny, you know, I'd go on a bus with my shoulder in a sling. Everyone opens the door for you. Yeah, really lovely people, genuinely. Can I carry your bags? Can I help you? Really. But you tell someone you're depressed, like my social media post, you know, someone say, oh, Joe, I see your biceps grown by ½ an inch. Well done. Well, you know, that's great. Thank you. But my bicep doesn't do anything for my life. What about my mental state? I really need you. I've posted publicly, yeah, that I am not in a good place. And you've chose to comment on my bicep, which I appreciate, that if people are only trying to be nice, but I'm not picking on the individuals. It's society that I'm not picking on, I'm questioning. And I think Laura's put a comment on here. Thank you, Laura. I've got a lot of time for Laura as an individual, what she does for a job, and Jami as an organization. But Laura said, you know, it's always important to ask twice, and don't be afraid. You know, one thing I do, again, it's a bit of a social experiment. I pick my moments, but a couple of them, again, my friends are going to laugh because it's obnoxious and sometimes irritating, but you go into a shop and someone says, hi, how are you doing today? I go, honestly, I'm absolutely awful, thank you. And you? And they're like, I'm like, no, genuinely, I'm terrible. And you know, I appreciate it's a bit obnoxious, you know, and I'm not, again, I'm not encouraging to be moron like I can be sometimes. But it is interesting because obviously in a shop you just want to get, yeah, I'm good, thank you. And I can't remember my other example, but it's I'm going to wrap up there, but to leave on the note, I'm significantly better than I was. Doing this talk, when I was suicidal, I would not have imagined this in a million years. I didn't want to be here. I couldn't even imagine living, let alone talking publicly about what I was suffering about. Not in a million years. And you're seeing me here today. Again, I'm not looking for kudos, but I will pat myself on the back sometimes and say, it's not about being arrogant, because I'd like to think that I'm not, but I'm sure there are times where I exhibit arrogance, like us all, everyone. But, there's times you can turn around and say, do you know what? Rather than writing a suicide note, leaving your keys at home, leaving your phone, everything at home, going down to a station to end it all, I've become an ambassador for Jami because I want to help. I've done a talk in JFS school this year, 2021. Obviously, those connected will know it's been a horrific time for the school, horrific. And therefore, there is some hope, because trust me, if I can do it, you can do it as well, or people So yeah, I hope I didn't go on too long or too deep or not deep enough, but that's me. I'll wrap up there. If anyone's got any questions, more than happy to answer.
Joey, thank you so much for those words. I just want to kind of acknowledge your vulnerability, right? Your willingness and your courage to share what you just have. I think that will have been of immense value. Sorry, I think somebody was just about to ask a question just as I came in there. I think it's Mark Green, but you don't look like a Mark.
No. My name's actually Jess. I work for Jami. I work in the carers and family support team. And I just wanted to know, Joey, does your wife have support? Because I'm happy to offer it for her, because that's very hard for her to live with every day with what you're going through. So I was just wondering if she had support. And my second question is, are you on medication?
So number 2 is an easy one. Yes, I am. I have fluctuated at times, deciding not to take it, but yes, I am. Again, I'm not embarrassed to say that. If everyone's got in this room a headache, you may take a paracetamol. It helps that, So if it's raining outside, use an umbrella. If you need help, get help. With reference to my wife, I don't want to go into too much personal sort of information about her. However, I absolutely put her through a hell of a lot, and my family on here, and she does have support, but I think there could also be, it's very difficult to deal with someone like me.
No. As I said, I work for Jami. I work in the carers and family team, and I'm offering that if your wife wants support to get in touch with me, my name's Jess.green. She's more than welcome to get in touch with me, and I'm happy to offer support for her. I'm carer peer support, and that's my role at work.
Thank you. And it's really a prudent point about family members as well, because until I started to build some recovery, I didn't quite realize what I put them through. And, for as much as back to the selfish and the suicide thing, I do get it, because it's someone that you care about, obviously, and I do get that logically. It's more that, my mindset at the time was just, I just don't want to be, I don't care about anyone else, but I'm sick of suffering. I just want out from the suffering. And, I've put my mum, my sister, my brother, I've put my family through a lot. So, Jess, thank you. It's really, really important. And again, there may be people on here who this doesn't affect you, but it affects, people So yeah, be mindful of that, the effect it has on others.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing your story.
No problem. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jess. We've got another question, I think, from Steve. Hi there, Steve.
It says MHAS, but I'm actually Steve. Joey, it's a very moving story. What I'd like to ask you is, during the time that you were going through the worst of it, before you started to come out and acknowledge it, what would it have been useful for your friends to have said to you or to have done? If I've got a suspicion or a concern about somebody, what can I actually do to help them in the first instance? Because you don't really know how they're going to react to what you're going to say.
Very, very good question, and actually one that I find difficult to answer, because it is really, really hard, and it's really hard to talk about. A bit like, I'm going to just liken it just for a second to when my father passed away. You know, anyone that's lost someone, you have the shiver. You know, it's all very all-encompassing. People come over, and then after those 6 or 7 days, it's almost like life goes back to normal, but not for you, because you've lost someone. And it's very difficult. I think part of it, I appreciate this isn't tangible, part of it is attending things like this generally, which equips you a bit better and to deal with overall situations and have more awareness, because the awareness is a key aspect of it. So, you know, noticing the signs. Again, I say this a bit jokingly, but a very British phrase is, you ask someone how they are, they say, yeah, I'm not bad, thanks. You know, not bad. People's language can often give away how they're feeling. So another thing is looking at online, there's something called the Thinking Distortions. So using absolutes, you know, oh, how are you? Everything's in my life. Well, everything is, yeah, you know, listen to people's language. Very, very important. Again, disqualifying the positive. So someone might have done a marathon and they'll come home and say, well, you know, it was really bad. I did it in 5 hours. I'm so disappointed. It's like, you've run a marathon. That's incredible. But so part of it, again, I appreciate this isn't tangible and I will get onto what I think, but part of it is having that awareness and trying to spot the signs as best you can. So if it's someone that you don't know as well, so it could be like a colleague at work, obvious things like their body language, as I said, listening to the words they're using, you know, looking out for a lack of hope. So I'm not bad, things aren't good, you know, collective speaking, you can start to think maybe something's going on there, maybe. But in all honesty, Steve, it's a difficult one. I think one of my issues is I often feel very lonely and like I haven't had much love in my life. And that's not because my family aren't loving. I think they also come from a difficult place and haven't necessarily been equipped themselves to show that love. I hold no blame for them or the situation. It is what it is. And sometimes a friend reaching out saying, you know, just want to let you know you didn't seem yourself, and I don't mean to pry, but I just want you to know that I'm here for you, and forgive. You know, I always try to pre-frame it, say, listen, I might be barking up the wrong tree, and I have had, you know, as a result of what I've been through, I can try to be a fixer or try to look for something too much. You know, I overanalyze, and I've had friends tell me where to go before, saying, Joey, I'm not depressed, leave me alone. You know, just because you are, and I'm like, that's completely fair. So sorry if I've not given as much a tangible answer. It's very difficult, but I think building up as much awareness as yourself, looking what to say to someone in that position online or what not to say. So the at least statement's really unhelpful. You know, talking about someone's circumstances, in my opinion, not helpful. But just, I suppose, just showing some love, and if someone knows that you've got their back. I think for me, when someone tries to offer something tangible, although it's sometimes needed, when I'm in that state or getting in that state, it's the Mount Everest syndrome. I'm too far gone to go to pick myself up, but knowing that someone's there with me sometimes helps.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry if it's not tangible.
No, it is helpful. It's, you know, if you've got these suspicions or concerns, it's what to say or whether to say, or whether you should go to I don't know, somebody else like Jami and say, this person I think might need some help. I just don't don't quite know how to start the conversation?
I think going to a resource like Jami, or I've spent a lot of time calling the Samaritans. I mean, the Samaritans for me were a way to avoid suicide. You know, I called them at the depths of my depression. But what's interesting is the way that they spoke to me, because they're trained. It really diffused me. Again, reaching out to, you know, Jami, I can't express enough. I don't know what the word is, gratitude or love for an organization. But, you know, like Jess has reached out to me on this call, they deal with this all day, every day. So they will know that that's a really good place to go to get some insight. Like, I'd honestly say start with Google. You know, what not to say to someone depressed is key, because sometimes people said things to me with the best will in the world, that these are people that love me and care about me. But it sent me spiraling.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah, no worries.
Jerry, I've got a question that because you've alluded to it a couple of times in your talk, when you said that you've been in that place of hopelessness, whereby you felt unable to move, you felt unable to stir yourself and to move into a place of any kind of like activeness or being active. Do you feel that, you know, as you've moved from your student years and university years to where you are now, do you have a strategy or something else that helps you to cope with that feeling of hopelessness, and what do you do with that now?
Yeah, good question. Thank you. Couple of things. So I just invented an acronym I call TBS, Total Body Shutdown. And when I was really, when I'm going through a real episode, I physically can't move. So personal hygiene, going to the shower, eating, it sounds absolutely ridiculous to some people, but it's a no. You know, I'm like, I do not have anything in. You know, I'm finished. When you're at that stage, and I'm talking the depth, you know, the worst, being honest and frank, it's very difficult. Very, very difficult. However, having that awareness and you know, things like therapy or going to organizations that offer counseling, and they're not all, you know, resources difficult for people. You know, it's very expensive being unwell, to be honest. My insurance premium from the Priory is through the roof. You know, and I've got all exclusions now. So, you know, you've got to sometimes go self-funding. And there are things like the Jewish Bereavement Counselling Service. I'm going to directly answer your question, but going there can provide support at low or no cost. But one thing, you know, going there and learning about your destructive behaviours or learning about things which make you worse, however obvious they are. For example, I like to listen to sad music when I'm down, or I use the word like. I mean, everyone says to me, but why do you do it? It makes you worse. And I actually can't give you a logical reason. I just, you know, my wife knows when I'm walking around with my AirPods in, this is not good. But for me to recognize that, because sometimes, yeah, music's it affects our mood, doesn't it? You know, really pumped music you might listen to in the gym, but really acknowledging and understanding your behaviors, I'd say, is the first step. But one thing which a friend taught me, which I found incredibly useful, was I developed a traffic light system of tasks. And it was literally red, green and orange, and it depends. I wrote them out. So, for example, red is stuff that's very, very simple and small, but they were used on the days that I was suffering from this TBS. So it could literally be brushing your teeth. Yeah, or making a coffee, and I stuck them on my wall. So I know that, you know, when you're in trouble, you're not in your best state, and that's the hardest thing I found with depression. That there is a big reliance on yourself, as much as there is support. Again, I'm just being straight. You know, it's very difficult if you're unable to help yourself. It is very difficult. But those red days, I would have brushing my teeth. An orange task might be going for a walk. A green task might be calling a friend to have a chat and going to the pub, yeah, for a drink or whatever it is. But I would say if you know, you have to do it in a good state. a bit like, there's a few mantras that I never try to make promises when I'm in a really good mood, because when you're in a good mood, you're feeling good, and it's easy to make a promise when you're really not in a good mood. Then it packs more of a punch. It's just certain things that I do. I've spent a lot of time learning my own behavior, but the traffic light system is very, very good. Building a support network, or finding that person or two people that, like the Samaritans for me, it's very painful to talk to my family when I'm feeling suicidal, because they get very sad hearing it. So on my list of people at that point in time will be the Samaritans. Again, so trying to do it when you're in a slightly better state and a bit more clear with less fuzz, and then leaning on that resource when you get into that bad state, I'd say is helpful.
Yes. Thank you, Joey. Thank you very much. Joey, we've got a couple of questions in the chat, and then I'm conscious that we probably try and wrap it up after that, just to kind of keep to time and make sure that we don't overextend. So this is a question from Dave. It's quite a long question, and I think there's a few parts to it. So do you think the image society that we occupy and how society values people is important? How do we build our self-esteem? Is a problem the values that social media rates as important an issue for mental health? And how can values of religious practice help? So maybe kind of take from those 5 questions that perhaps something that resonates for you the most, and focus on that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, big question. It's difficult. Obviously that self-esteem comes from yourself, and where we want to get to in life is that no matter what happens around us, no matter what we look at, it doesn't rock us because we're comfortable within ourselves. And I really, really struggle with self-esteem, and my outward behavior is very affected by that. So yeah, I think image is social media is a very tough one. I think it's a very powerful medium, and if it's used in a certain way, that the problem is that every single person in life has their own filter. We've got our eyes and our ears, and then when a message is given, or I'm talking now and you'll watch me, and you're all passing, everyone says I don't judge is not true. You might not judge in a negative way, but we all judge because it goes through our filters, and all of our life experiences and what we know, and our intelligence, our background, whatever, shapes how you interpret that message. Yeah, so a prime example in therapy, it's the most basic example, is a very good friend walks past you in the street and doesn't say hello to you. How do you react? Now, my brother-in-law, who's a very positive, amazing guy, but he would just say, oh, he just didn't see me, like, what's the problem? But some other people would be like, can you believe that? I walked past such and such today and they didn't say hello to me. Whatever they are. So yeah, image is difficult, because I think, look, the old phrase sex sells, and in business, sometimes that's needed. I think if the world was more supportive and robust to deal with self-esteem generally, and again, organizations like Jami, JBCS, all this, if we continue to invest in ourselves as individuals, learning about yourself, looking to develop, looking to challenge yourself and build that self-esteem, then those things shouldn't affect you. However, that is very, very easy for me to say. And yes, I do think they're damaging. But what I chose to do is I had to protect myself. So for a number of years, again, my friends used to joke about it, but I deleted my Facebook account, because at that moment in time, it wasn't just about image. It was the analysis and comparison of other people. At that moment in time, I would see someone celebrating having a child or getting a promotion or whatever it is, and that I would use that as an internal battering ram. So it's a big question. Sorry if I've not directly answered it, but yeah, I think it's challenging. But I think the nature of self-esteem, if we can all truly find a support network, take time out of our daily life. We're all hamsters on a wheel. Every single person on here is too busy for this call right now, guaranteed. Everyone. Yeah, that's the way life goes. We are all busy. No one sat there twiddling their thumbs, but stopping and being mindful and investing yourself will help you to build that self-esteem. And then you should, again, all theory, but you should be more equipped to deal with the external society.
Thanks, Joey. That's really, really interesting answer. Just before I forget, there's quite a few comments on there, which I'm not going to go through, but some really useful resources that people have that have been put on there. So please do have a look at that. The last question I've got for you, Joey, and then you can take a breather, is from Laura. Laura has acknowledged, said, thanks for your candor. I'm interested to know how you managed to avoid the drug scene when you were younger.
Good question. I don't know. Drugs have never appealed to me. I had very strong. I was brought up in a family of sort of don't drink, don't take drugs, and I was quite obedient. But I've also got a very, very addictive personality. So I suffer from addictions, but the addictions I suffer from, people don't often recognise as addictions because they're not substances. So I just knew that if I went down that route, I would probably end up dead. The gym's a prime example. I mean, when my dad was extremely, extremely unwell for over a decade, and I watched his health. He was obliterated, and he wore a nappy at the end of his life. It really was a sort of a horrific experience. And during that time, instead of me turning to drugs or alcohol, I turned to health and fitness, because I was like, I'm going to make myself the fittest, most powerful, healthy person there is. I know other people that have lost parents and have turned to health as well. And it's a fine line. Health is obviously very, very important. But my wife said to me when I said, listen, I want to build a gym in the garden, she stumbled. And I said, what, is it finances? Is it taking up the garden? She said, no, I'm worried you'll be in there every day. And that's one of the reasons why, I'm not Mr. Fit, I'm not, it's nothing to do with my fitness. It's a state of mind. And it's, why do I have an addictive personality? Well, there's obviously a lot of pain from my childhood or whatever it is. And it's avoidance. People that are lost in addictions, particularly substances, they're mind altering. You don't want to be with yourself. So I do have a curiosity with drugs, and again, I'm not encouraging it, but I'm curious. I think if I don't never take drugs, then maybe I won't, like I've been skydiving and I've got a tattoo because I want to experience those and stuff. But I just was always, if I go down that route, this isn't going to end well.
Thank you, Joey. And thank you so much for your contribution over this last hour. I'm sure I'm talking on behalf of everybody who's listened to you, kind of how powerful you come across. And I know you said that you don't take compliments too well, but really, I can only personally say how kind of amazing I found that talk, and to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your courage for that. So it was just amazing. I think there's some comments coming and there's some emojis flowing through here. So just to acknowledge your contribution today. So it's been an absolute pleasure, an absolute privilege to listen to you. Take a well-earned break, and to thank everybody, every single person on this call for attending and for joining. And if there's any feedback that you would like to give to either the shul or to myself, my email address is on the chat. I'd love to hear more from you as to what else we can be doing to help support other people with mental health challenges. Thanks
Thank you.
So much.
I thank you again, Jonny, as well. I've been particularly challenging to get hold of the last few weeks, and your persistence and desire has been something that I wish everyone would have. And there's been people in here who've reached out to me and posted about, it's not about me, and genuinely I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to give back. And if any of you want to give back and reach out, I will say that's also a great form of therapy and medication. It is, you know, doing something for someone else. And I am by no means a selfless person. You know, I'm not trying to say that, but it helps me as well. So I'm grateful for the opportunity, because one person that's benefited from the call at least is me, because giving me that opportunity helps me. So thank you so much. Just one last thing. I haven't had a chance to read any of the comments, but if this is closed, I'm guessing they'll all go. So I might just be sad and stay in here and read them for a minute after. But yeah, no, thank you. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And yeah, thanks very much.
Thanks, Joey. Thanks ever so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Take care.